Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fund Hub Radio. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today I am joined by two of our amazing personal event coaches, Maria Miles and Deidre Roy. Today, we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic, I think, for a lot of our listeners and viewers, and that's, are you feeling lost with your DIY fundraising? We're here to give you the support you need. Welcome, Maria and Deidre. It's great to have you today.
Thanks you. Great to be here.
Us.
Of course. I wanted to get started here by just having each of you kind of introduce yourselves a little bit and what drew you into becoming a fundraising coach. Maria, let's start with you.
All right. Well, I was a teacher and I taught school for 3 years. After I had my first daughter, I stopped teaching and I was a stay-home mom for years and years. During that time, though, I knew how important the PTA was and parent support from when I was a teacher. And so I was always involved with the PTA. One year, I decided I would love to do a fun run. And it took a little bit of a convincing, but I talked to my board and they agreed that we could do a fun run. So after my involvement with the PTA and doing fun runs on my own, I had told friends, I'd given referrals. I could tell anyone about working with Get Moving, and I knew that it had been so helpful for me. I was thinking about going back and being a teacher, and then I saw an email where Get Moving was hiring. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I could tell anyone about that because I loved my experience. It helped me so much. So I decided I'll just apply and see what happens. And here I am starting my 6th year.
I love that story. That's so great because you really have the perspective of not only just a chairperson, but also a teacher, which, we don't always have, with our personal event coaches. So it's great that you offer certain different perspectives. And I also love that something really great about our coaches, and we're going to hear a little bit more about this with Deidre's intro as well, is that all of our personal event coaches are or have been a chairperson in the past. So that is just a great little intro, Maria. Thank you so much for introducing yourself and letting us know how you became a fundraising coach. Deidre, let's hear from you. What led you to Get Moving Fundraising and working with us?
So like you said, my background is similar. I was originally a fundraising chairperson. So when my oldest was in kindergarten or first grade, I got roped into joining the PTO board at my kid's school. And I right away got interested in the fundraising piece of it because I loved to see what types of things we could bring into the school for the kids so that weren't paid by the district. But I also at the same time was super frustrated because we were doing a lot of product sales, a lot of small fundraisers that were raising like $300, $1,000. And I really wanted more bang for my buck. So in 2016, I went to a PTO expo here in Massachusetts, and I met a couple of fundraising coaches that are actually still here. And I just had immediate connection with them and talked my principal into, basically hiring Get Moving to help us with a fun run that we had never done before. And it was just so successful. I mean, everyone, the principal, all of the other board members, people that had left the school and were past board members were contacting me and telling me, oh my gosh, how did you raise that much money? And I loved it. And I loved what we could provide to the school with the dollars we raised. So 2 years later, when same thing as Maria, when I got an email from my fundraising coach saying they were looking for someone to handle the New England territory, I jumped on it. I love helping schools do what I was able to do for my kids' school, to the point where I even sort of help them spend the money after they raise it with suggestions. But that was my path to Get Moving.
Yeah, that's such a great story also. You guys are both great assets to our team, and I love being able for you guys to give our listeners and viewers a little bit of an insight on your background, because I think it's really nice when you have somebody that you can relate to. I mean, some of our chair people are teachers, some of our chair people are just parent volunteers. So knowing that the fundraising experts and our coaches at Get Moving are able to provide that sort of, perspective on things because they've been in your shoes before is a super great asset that, we can help bring to schools. So thank you guys for those intros. So now we are going to get into our first order of business here on our topic here on if, some of our listeners and viewers are feeling, a little bit slumped out on different do-it-yourself ideas because as much as, we want things to be custom to your event and however you want to plan your event, you might not feel inspired as a chairperson or a, fundraising board member. So let's get started here. And so we're eager to hear about some of the schools that initially tried to handle their fundraising events on their own. Maria, let's start with you, finding out a little bit about some schools that you've worked with that have tried to do an a-thon or event style fundraiser by themselves. And then worked with Get Moving and how that worked out for them.
So there's no experience that's better than your own experience. And so I wanted to share my experience. We tried doing a fun run on our own. And my school that I come from, where my kids went, that we have very few volunteers. And that's what I hear from so many people. It's very common. People are busy. It's hard to carve out that time, but we had few volunteers, but I was determined. I wanted to do it, and I believed it could be successful, but I didn't understand how much work it would be.
Yeah.
For people that are my age, obviously I wasn't anyway, years ago, I am not a spreadsheet person.
Right.
Tracking that information was a nightmare. So for me, I totaled everything up. I was adding with a calculator for each of the kids in the school, trying to total up classrooms. It was a full-time job. I didn't understand what it would take. And my husband even joked, he's like, you might as well work at the school because you're working full-time. But I didn't understand what having those reports and having a coach and all of that would do to help make it so much easier and manageable for someone trying to run an event. And so the next time we decided to do one, I had researched and found Get Moving, and I knew that those were the tools that I needed because that was not in my wheelhouse. And I was like, if you want me to do it, this is what we need to do or I can't. And so just my experience. One other thing was counting all the cash and check. I was also the treasurer at the time. And that was every day counting money, depositing at the bank. It just was, it was difficult. And I didn't know what I was missing until I knew I needed to find something new and better.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that we're kind of here in our whole business is about promoting event style fundraisers, but there is a little bit of a downside to them when you do become like a little bit of a event planner and trying to do that kind of stuff on your own with the, like you said, Maria, the limited amount of volunteers and the, lack of tools. I mean, really, like you said, like an Excel spreadsheet, we're not all experts in that. And having to track that all on your own can be super overwhelming. So being able to have an all-in-one platform that gives you those tools, not to mention a coach that's there to help you walk through it all, is just a huge asset. Deidre, let's hear a little bit from you if you have any experiences of schools that you've worked with or your own experience where, you tried to have the fundraiser on your own or they tried to have the fundraiser on their own, and what really came out of that.
So I work with a school in I just worked with a school last fall in Southern New Hampshire that has a similar story to Maria, except that for them, it was a tradition. So they had a walkathon every year. She told me it was a 20-year tradition. So it was an exciting event every year. They were able to get volunteers because it was such a great tradition, but it was still so much work. They collected cash and checks. it was just, and they typically did around $18,000 to $20,000, all manual, tracking on spreadsheets, lots of people handling cash and checks, teachers handling cash, different board members handling checks, trying to get it all deposited and tracked. But they did well. I mean, $18,000 to $20,000 is great. So they had a lot of pushback for years on adding an online portal because they raised so much on their own. But I think it got to the point where, as their board members changed over and they had more parents on the board and in their community that were used to technology, they finally convinced them that, even if they raised the same amount of money, it was going to be really worth it time-wise if they added the technology and didn't have to track it all manually. They actually ended up raising $40,000 instead of 18 to 20, which, when I first met with her, she said, even if we raised, enough more to cover the difference in fees, we would be happy because it would be that much less work. But they more than doubled what they typically raised by adding the online portal. And she was blown away by it. So it was really exciting to be a part of that. And I'm excited to work with her again next fall.
Yeah, that's a great story. I love that. I mean, because that can be kind of sometimes like an objection that you guys hear is, we're doing it on our own and we're already raising so much money. Like, what do we need you for? We don't want to pay you if we can do it by ourselves. But then to hear that adding that online component doubled their donations is crazy. I love to hear those kinds of stories. So I know we kind of touched on some of the challenges that these schools were facing throughout those stories. I mean, what I was really hearing here was like reports, reach, Deidre. I mean, these people thought that they were raising all the money that they possibly could, but then they add an online component and they realize, oh, wow, we can really double those things. So it sounds like that was kind of a turning point for your school there was like, oh, we're fine. We can do it on our own, but you're like, wait, add this online component and you will double those donations. So that was a super great story. Maria, did you have any, I know you kind of mentioned the same like report challenges. What kind of happened with you guys when, in your experience, when you were facing the challenges of not only like the work that you had to do, but were you guys able to find that reach, or was the online component necessary for you guys to find that reach?
That's what happened with us. We needed the online, our immediate community. We were never able to make more than, $4,000 to $5,000. And that's what we made when we did it ourselves. And then once we teamed up with Get Movin', we raised $10,000. And it was kind of fun because no one believed me. No one thought that it was even possible. And for some schools, $10,000 still isn't a lot, but for ours, people couldn't imagine it. And you didn't want to brag, but you were like, I knew it would work. And it was so exciting. And Marcy was my event coach. And it was really funny how much I utilized her and how much of a help she was to me, because I was planning it by myself. I had people who would help distribute incentives, but I would reach out to her with questions, and she was just so supportive. I would tell the people on my board, oh, Marcy said this, and they're like, who's Marcy? I was talking about her like she was my old friend, but she was my teammate because I was on my own in planning. I didn't know what to do. And so just that aspect, it helped overcome the lack of volunteers because I had someone to help bounce ideas off. And then the reach, it just was, we made a lot of believers by teaming up, and it just kind of went from there, and it was super fun.
That's great. You beat me to my next point. I was just going to ask what insights you feel that and value you feel the fundraising coaches bring to events for fundraising for schools. So definitely that is a great point that you just made, Maria, is those schools for our viewers and listeners that are like, I can't do an a-thon style event. It's too much work. I'm by myself. Yeah, maybe I have one or two people that are able to help me, but really when it comes to the planning and the preparing to actually get started with the event, I feel like I'm by myself. And something that you just hit on that is perfect is that our personal event coach, every single school that teams up with us is going to get paired with a personal event coach. And that personal event coach is there for you throughout every step of the way. I mean, you are not alone when you're working with Get Moving Fundraising. And that is a great point that Maria she was able to experience herself. And it was so impactful to her that she was like, I want to be a fundraising coach. So that's super.
Can I add one more thing to that?
Please.
That was so helpful. The event toolbox is something that we provide all sorts of ideas and documents and things to help. And when I was doing it on my own, I may have been the nerdiest chairperson ever, but I couldn't wait to get access to the toolbox. I read it all. I looked at all of the timelines and all of the different things because it was just me, like, okay, I'm the chairperson, I'm the promoter, but I did it. Like, we have an assembly kickoff script. I did it word for word my first year. I needed it all and I used it all and it made all the difference. And so that was something that really helped me too.
That's a really great point as well, Maria. The event toolbox is a really great feature that we have for all of the schools that work with Get Moving Fundraising as well. And I'm just going to put a little teaser out there. I mean, I think that we are working on some great improvements for the event toolbox for the 2024-2025 school year. So if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely take a tour and we can give you some insight on some improvements that are coming for next school year. Deidre, I wanted to get some insights from you on what you think that the value is that your schools see with a fundraising coach. Do you have anything to add on to what Maria was talking about with value from the fundraising coaches?
Yeah, so I'm laughing over here at Maria because she was the opposite of me. I took a look at the event toolbox and was like, I was by myself and I took the event toolbox and I was like, I'm not really sure where to start. So I leaned on Marcy a lot and she was always able to guide me where to go. I mean, it's very organized. Documents are great. I was easily able to see what made sense for me to use and what didn't, because there is so much information in there. I can't believe you went through the whole thing, but I leaned on Marcy a lot. So when I talk to new schools that have never done anything like this before. And my situation was similar, Maria. I had a lot of people that said, yes, I'll help you. When I ran my first, we call it a walkathon. Yeah, I'll help you, but I don't want to chair it with you. So I felt like I was all on my own. I was really nervous. And Marcy assured me she could help me. She pointed me in the direction of the event toolbox. And I was still a little bit, nervous. So she really kind of held my hand the whole way. And it's what I tell my new chair people as well, especially if it's someone working in a very small, it's a very small team or even just one person, because in New England, we do have a lot of small neighborhood schools. I'm your co-chair. So I have some schools that don't really need me at all, but I have a lot of schools that do need a lot of, coaching and, even just assurance along the way. And that's what I'm here for. So I tell schools I'm here for as much or as little as you need me. I'm not going to bother you all of the time with all of my crazy ideas for rewards and things like that, if that's not something you want to do, but I'll be touching base. Do you need help? What about this? And they can contact me, whenever for questions or help or just brainstorming, feedback, things like that. So, because I got so much help from Marcy, I think she just really trained me that people are nervous if this is something they've never done before. And I want to assure them it's me. It's always going to be me. I'm the person that you'll have access to all the time. It's not like you're going to have to explain your situation to another support person. Yeah. And I want to help you be successful because it's sort of like the fundraising became my passion when I started working, at my kids' school. And I just love helping others, realize their goals too. So I'm a little bit opposite of Maria in that I did not read, don't tell Marcy, but I did not read through the event toolbox myself. I was just kind of like, can you point me in the direction of a good document for this? And she was always there to be very helpful.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of nice that you guys are both here and able to offer those two different perspectives. I mean, because people that are watching and listening to this podcast are probably all different, kinds of volunteers. So I think that it's great that you were able to provide a couple of different perspectives on what the coach did for you and how that was of value to you. And I think that it's just nice too to have somebody there that you can bounce ideas off of, Deidre, kind of like what you were saying. Like, hey, I have this idea for this incentive. Like, do you think it will work? Or, hey, we were thinking about doing our run or dance-a-thon or read-a-thon this way. What do you think about that? And the great thing about our personal event coaches is that they work with several different schools every single season, and they've seen different varieties and how different things can work. So being able to have that kind of expertise, it's almost better than a co-chair because you have the different experiences from all the different schools, the different shapes, sizes, whatever they are, public, private, whatever. You've seen it from every different perspective. So I think those were some really good points that you guys both made. Moving on, we are already kind of getting towards the end of the episode here. So I just want to touch on a couple of other points here. I think that when it comes to fundraising, especially a thon style fundraising, because it does seem like it's something that you guys can do on your own as a parent or organization. Maria, let's start with you. What do you think are some common misconceptions about partnering with a company like Get Movin' that you'd like to address, just to kind of debunk some of those rumors or things like that, to kind of shed some light on really hiring a company is mostly just going to be an asset to you? So let us know about some misconceptions you believe when partnering with Get Movin'.
One of the things that I think may be a misconception is that you have to do it our way. And I explained about the toolbox, and they do have all the different ideas, but in the end, it is truly up to you. You get to decide how you want it to look, what you want your incentives to be. And we just are here to support you in whatever it is that you want to do. So we're good with that. And I think, like we've done it on our own. We know how. We don't want someone telling us, but
right.
It's not like that. It's just a tool to help you. And if it's not helpful, then you don't do it. And we support you in however you want it to look.
Yep, that's so true. I mean, I think, there are companies out there that may be able to provide you a little bit more of a full service, like, hey, like there are schools and different kinds of things out there, organizations that want something like that, where they don't really want to do any of the work and they want something like that. And that's totally fine. But we find value in that customization, like letting you do what it is that you want to do for your fundraiser, especially for a school or an organization that has been doing it like you guys both were. I mean, you don't want someone just coming in there and saying, oh, nope, you've been doing a fun run like this for 5 years. Sorry, nope, we got to completely shift it and change it and do it the way that you want us to do it. So that was a great misconception, Maria. I mean, being able to have that customization and really just have a platform there and a coach there to help you along the way is really what we're here for. So great misconception there. Deidre, did you have any misconceptions you wanted to address about working with us?
I mean, I think the elephant in the room is pricing, right? So,
yep.
like I mentioned with my school in Southern New Hampshire, they recognized that they needed an online technology because it was so tedious. But in their mind, they said to themselves and me, if we can just make enough more to cover the cost of the platform, we're good, because the work would be a lot less. But that's not even true either. So they, as I said, they doubled. So, you're doing it on your own, and you're afraid of the cost of an online tool, but the online tool is just extending your reach. So
yes,
you can say, oh, I'm going to give away part of my profits, but the difference in what you can raise is so much more that it offsets any sort of fees. And it's nominal. I'm not sitting there in your school delivering incentives, going into the classrooms. So we're not taking 40, 50% of your profits. We're just kind of covering, some of our services and some of the credit card fees and things like that. So obviously pricing is something that we could talk more about in a tour, but
Yes.
Just know that you're not giving away half of what you raise by using an online portal.
I think that's absolutely another great misconception. I mean, the whole goal, and I hope that our listeners and viewers of this podcast can understand, like, the whole goal of Get Moving Fundraising and from where we started is because we were parent group members and PTO chair people, PTA chair people. The business was discovered because there was a gap. People in parent group organizations needed help. They needed an online component. We're in the age of technology, and being able to have a student webpage, just like you said, Deidre, to send out on social media, send out on text, send out on email, so that you're able to reach grandma in Arizona so she doesn't have to send a check through the snail mail. So you're able to reach your family members that live in Europe or Asia or, wherever it is they live. Being able to have that sort of reach definitely outweighs the price. And like Deidre said, if you'd like to learn more about how you can maximize your reach and really not pay that much in fees, please feel free to take an online tour with us. We'd be happy to teach you on how that is, how you will be able to be successful through that. So ladies, we are wrapping up here at the end of our Get Moving Fundraising Fund Hub Radio episode here today on if you feel like you're a slump in your DIY fundraising. So I just wanted to end here on one final question. Maria, we'll start with you. Do you have any other success stories or standout moments from your time coaching schools that you want to highlight?
I have so many. And one of my favorite things, it happened even this morning, is when we work with schools, it's personal. Like, we really do care about your success. And one of my chair people texted me this morning, "Hey, Maria, look, we made our local paper." It was so touching to me that she knew I would care. And, it just goes to show that it's more than just, fundraising and a coach. We develop relationships. Yes. We help you to raise more, but we are here for you and we care. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about being a coach, is the people that I work with and helping them to raise more so that they can do so much more at their school for the kids.
Totally. I mean, that is such a great point, Maria. Thank you for those final thoughts there. Deidre, anything that you wanted to highlight here as we end the episode?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm kind of like Maria. There's so many success stories that I couldn't possibly remember them all. But I think my favorite, because it's, again, so personal to me, like Maria said, is, I was the first school in my town to use Get Moving, to work with Get Moving. And now all 5 elementary schools in my town work with Get Moving. And because I'm so involved in the local schools, I actually also used to do all the enrichment for my son's all three of my son's elementary school in my town. I get to see what they're using the funds for. So right. I see all over social media, oh my gosh, because all of the schools in my town are raising all of this money, they're able to have all these great opportunities, authors or, people coming in with great enrichment opportunities that I know is being paid for with all the funds raised, with our school walkathon. So it's exciting to watch. And I feel like, I feel like I'm part of the reason why we get to have such great enrichment opportunities in this town now.
That's so cool. I love that. I hadn't even really thought about that. So that's a really great highlight here to end the episode on that, as a coach, you're able to see your community thrive. And that is such a really great point to end on, Deidre. I want to take a moment here to thank both of you for taking some time out of your busy day to join me here for this episode of Fund Hub Radio. I think we provided some great insights to help some of our parents and volunteers that listen to this podcast on if they're feeling lost in their DIY fundraising. We are here to give them the support that they need through so many different tools, coaches, and our platform Fund Hub. So thank you guys both so much for being here today. I wanted to end the episode here, and I will see you guys all on another episode of Fund Hub Radio. I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Lindsay.